Assalamu alaikum class. My name is Sarah Zainab and today is the second part of my previous lecture and we will study clause and its types. So students, in previous lecture I have defined you what is sentence. When you understand the structure of sentence, then you will be able to understand what is phrase and clause. Let's have a quick review about the previous lecture. As I have told you that a sentence is a combination of words that makes complete sense and it contains the main idea. For example, as I have given you in the slide, she spoke in a great joy. So this sentence contains the main idea. And I have already told you the structure of sentence comprises a subject and the predicate. And subject is the main person or thing about which something is said, while predicate express something about the subject. Let's have the examples. The face is magical indeed. Here the subject is the face and predicate is magical indeed, the second part of the sentence. And the second example is Ali goes to school. Here Ali is the subject and goes to school is predicate. So I hope that you have understood the basic idea, the basic concept and the basic structure of sentence. Students, in previous lecture, I have already defined you what are phrases and clauses. So let's have a quick review of phrases and clauses again. A phrase is a combination of words that make some sense but not complete sense. It is without a subject and a verb or a predicate. For example, at her beck and call. And second example is at the airport. You notice that there is no subject in these sentences. While a clause is a group of words which make complete sense. It has subject and predicate. Clause is a part of larger sentence. So many times you will feel that a clause is a complete sentence. It functions as a complete sentence. Here, see the two clauses. She stayed at home. So, this sentence has a subject and a predicate. And she wanted to accompany us. This is also a complete sentence having a subject and predicate. While if these two sentences makes the one sentence like she stayed at home and she wanted to accompany us. These type of sentences are joined by conjunction like a larger sentence have two clauses. I hope you will understand and Now you will have a complete idea about phrase and clause. Students, in my previous lecture, I have defined you phrase and its types. But here in this lecture, I'll define you what is clause. So a clause is a group of related words that contains at least one subject and one verb, and it is used as a sentence or a part of sentence. Let's see the previous example. She stayed at home and she wanted to accompany us. Here you can see that she stayed at home. Here she is the subject and stayed at home is predicate. So it can function, this clause can function as a sentence by itself. And the second part, she wanted to accompany us. This sentence also acts like a part of a sentence. So you see that a clause has a complete meaning on its own, and it can also be used as a sentence. Students, here I'll explain you that how a clause is used as a sentence or a part of sentence. Here you can see that a clause having a complete meaning means it is used as a sentence. For example, Sarah loves cooking. On the other side, you see when a clause having incomplete meaning means it is a part of sentence. An example is when he goes. I hope you will understand that how clause is or functions as a sentence or a part of sentence. Students, in this slide, we will discuss types of clause. There are two main types of clause. First is main clause and second is subordinate clause. The main clause comprises a complete thought. It has a subject and predicate. That is why it is called independent clause. The main clause can stand alone as a sentence, while the subordinate clause is also called dependent clause. It has also a subject and predicate, but subordinate clause does not express complete thought, and subordinate clause cannot stand alone as a sentence. So students, this is the main difference between main clause and subordinate clause. Students, in this slide, I'm going to discuss dependent clause and then we will discuss the types of dependent clause. But before that, I want to discuss dependent clause again. As we have read in previous slide that a dependent clause cannot be stand alone or be a sentence, and we have discussed the reasons why the dependent clause cannot be stand alone or be a sentence. The reason is that the dependent clause does not express the complete thought. And why the dependent clause does not express the complete thought? Because it is marked by dependent markers. Before going to discuss the dependent markers, I want to add an example to clarify you the dependent markers. The example is when Sarah studied in university. When is the dependent marker? When we add the word when in this sentence, it is incomplete. It doesn't express the complete thought because of the word when. So see the sentence before or removing when, like Sarah studied in university. This is the complete sentence. Sarah is the subject and studied in university is predicate, and it is a complete sentence, and it is the independent clause. When we add the word when, and when is the dependent marker, when we add when in this sentence, it becomes dependent sentence, a dependent clause. Here, I'll also discuss some dependent markers, and you will practice at your home about all these dependent markers and make different sentences. So let's see what the dependent marker is. A dependent marker is a word that added to the beginning of an independent clause that makes it into a dependent clause. See the above examples once again. Sarah studied in university. This is the independent clause. When we add the word when, dependent marker when, with the independent clause, it becomes dependent clause. So a dependent marker word is a word that added to the beginning of an independent clause that makes it into the dependent clause. Here are some common dependent markers. For example, after, although, as if, because, before, even if, even though, if, in order to, since, though, unless, until, whatever, whenever, whether, and while. And I have mentioned some of the dependent markers in this slide. I hope you will understand. Students, there are many types of dependent clause, but I'll discuss only three main types of dependent clause. First is noun clause, second is adjective clause, and third is adverb clause. In this slide, I'll discuss noun clause. So, noun clause is a subordinate clause which acts as noun in a sentence. It usually starts with words like that, what, whatever, who, whom, whoever, or whomever. Noun clause can work as noun either at the place of a subject or an object. The examples are whatever we study increases our knowledge. Here, Noun deals as a subject. And second example is what you eat determines your body size. Here you can see that noun indicates as a subject. I hope you will understand what is noun clause. In this slide, we will discuss the second type of clause. The second type of clause is adjective clause. So adjective clause is a type of subordinate clause which acts as an adjective in a sentence. Like an adjective, it modifies or adds information to a noun or a pronoun in the sentence. An adjective clause mostly starts with the relative pronouns such as that, who, whom, whose, which, and many more. See the examples. He hates the people who waste time. In this sentence, the adjective clause is who waste the time and it modifies noun people. The second example, the car which I like consumes less fuel. In this sentence, which I is the adjective clause because it modifies noun car. I hope you will understand adjective clause. In this slide, I'll discuss the third type of dependent clause, that is adverb clause. Adverb clause which acts as an adverb in a sentence is called an adverb clause. Like an adverb, it modifies a verb, an adjective clause, or an other adverb clause in the sentence. The adverb clause is also, like an adverb, modifies or qualifies an adjective, verb, or other adverb or a word group expressing a relation of place, time, circumstances, manner, cause, and degree. So, a verb clause also modifies or add information to a verb like an action of the main clause in the terms of time frequency, for example, how and often, and conditions, cause and effect, and intensity. For example, call me when you need me. It modifies verb call. And second example is unless you avoid sugar, you cannot lose weight. In this example, it modifies verb lose weight. I hope you will understand all the points that we have discussed in this lecture. Allah Hafiz.